Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we are going to continue exploring Venus's recent entrance into the sign of Libra, where she is now out of her fall in Virgo and into her rulership in Libra. We're going to talk about why that is an indication of maybe some improvements for Venus and what that might look like in your birth chart according to some horoscopes. So that is our agenda for today. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. Turn on that little notification bell for updates so you know when all of our new episodes have dropped or when we're going live. I'm doing a live stream. Sharing your comments, of course, helps the algorithm find us. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. Best thing you can do for us is subscribe if you watch regularly. We're seeing if we can't get to 100,000 subscribers by next summer on the channel, kind of a goal that we have here. Anyway, head over to the website, nightlightastrology.com. A couple of things going on this month. Go to live talks, and you are going to find that on October 23rd, I have a new talk in my monthly webinars coming up on the second house. So if you want to learn more about the ancient philosophical roots of the money house, how to read it, how to get more out of your understanding of this house in your chart, check this talk out. If you can't make it live, of course, you'll get the recording. I'm really excited about this one. A lot of people have questions about money, and understanding patterns and planetary rulers of that house can be so helpful. So yeah, really check that one out. Go to the events page, click on Silent Sundays starting this month on October 26th. That's a Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Central. We're holding a once monthly meditation gathering. This is free, just something I'm creating to try and build more meaningful bridges between astrology and daily spiritual self-care. I invite you to join for a little bit of quiet time. Quiet time can be so healing, and there's no doctrine or dogma around this circle. It's literally just come, chill out, sit in the quiet, receive the benefits of it. So that Silent Sunday practice will start taking place once monthly, free to attend. The link is right there on the page. I hope to see you guys there. Go to the courses page, click on first year course. At the end of today's video, there is an informational talk about the upcoming year one program, which begins on November 8th. This is our first year course in ancient Hellenistic astrology. I'm very excited for a new cohort to begin again this fall. This class is a full deep immersion into ancient Hellenistic astrology. Again, like I said, at the end of today's talk, there's an info video that'll tell you everything you need to know about the class. The early bird payments are available until October 24th. And then there's need-based tuition assistance. So if you need to pick within a sliding scale, you need to pay $30 a month, or you need $40 a month. We have a little sliding scale you can work with that helps you meet your budgetary needs. If we don't want people living outside of their means to take and learn a sacred topic like astrology. So this is something that's been there for people who might be hurting, or maybe the exchange rate is super high and it makes it impractical for you to take the course. Whatever the case might be, please do take advantage of that. It's something we're really proud to have been using now for 16 years. And making sure that nobody's priced out of studying a really beautiful subject like astrology. So on that note, every day I've been saying something about why I think studying astrology is so important and valuable. To me, one of the main benefits of taking a course like the first year program at Nightlight is that whether you're talking about the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly planetary tracking that we do on a channel like this, or you're talking about the interactions of the planets in your own birth chart or transits to your birth chart. So much of astrology is about understanding how planets converse with one another symbolically. It really, really helps to get down to the basics and the underlying philosophy and theory of astrology. Understanding the why behind everything greatly enhances your ability to understand how planets communicate with one another. And whether that comes to your own birth chart transits or daily tracking like we do on this channel, having that knowledge, developing that language set for yourself is deeply valuable, especially if you love astrology and want it to last a lifetime. So I highly recommend studying more seriously. Come study with us. Hope to see you there. All right, on that note, let's turn our attention to the real-time clock. Take a look. Here we go. So today, Tuesday, October 4th, we're seeing Venus just coming out of this little series of aspects that she made to start the week. We covered that yesterday. So if you missed that talk on Venus opposite Neptune, Venus trine Pluto, Venus trine Uranus, this kind of major series of aspects Venus is going through to start the week, go back to yesterday's video and check that out. What I want to do today is something a little bit different. I want to talk about what makes Venus in the sign of Libra benefic, why this is one of Venus's home signs, you might say, And then I want to take everything out of the chart, just like this. And we're going to place Venus in each of the whole sign houses and just give you a sense of how Venus's improved dignity, remember she's just coming out of her fall in Virgo, moving into her rulership in Libra, may bring some benefits, blessings, improvements, help, support, good fortune into this whole sign house of your birth chart. So that's what we're going to do. We'll start with Aries. We'll work our way around the wheel. But first, let's talk briefly about why Venus in Libra is considered benefic in the first place. This is one of Venus's 2 signs of rulership. And actually, I'm going to use the chart to just demonstrate something. Kind of a neat way of thinking about it. So if we start with the signs of the moon, the moon, Cancer, and the sun, Leo, then we're going to draw aspects to the right-hand side of the sun. That's a masculine direction. And we're going to draw a left-handed aspect, the direction of the moon or feminine, to the left. And when we reach the sextiles, whole sign sextiles, to Cancer and Leo, going to the right and the left, we get to Taurus and Libra. Those are effectively 2 whole signs away from the starting points of Cancer and Leo. Those are sextiles, and those connect us to the signs of Venus. And this is how ancient astrologers explain the designation of Venus to these signs. They sextile the signs of the luminaries. Sextiles are of the nature of Venus, and here we are in the 2 signs ruled by Venus. Interestingly, there's some other interesting reasons for the designation of Venus as the ruler of Libra, but that's one of them that's pretty fascinating and connects directly to the meaning of the sextile aspect. We cover a lot of these things, by the way, in the programs that you'll take at Nightlight in depth. And that's one thing that people usually really appreciate about the programs. When you understand the logic behind all of the rulerships and how they all work, you have an ability to be a lot more intuitive than most people who only get, lists of this and that combining, and here's a list of how you can assign meaning to this or that. Understanding the underlying rationale is everything. But anyway, when we get to the sign of the balance, we are in the sign of the fall equinox from the perspective of the northern hemisphere, and we are entering the dark half of the year. Now, that dark half of the year was associated, broadly speaking, with yin, and yin with nighttime, and nighttime with the moon, and nighttime and yin with the feminine. The manifest cosmos itself, as an emanation of the one into the many, was itself considered feminine. So the material cosmos, the embodied life of the material cosmos, so diverse and plural, is considered feminine. For example, when you go out in the evening, rather than seeing the singular light of the sun that drowns out all other lights, it's the only light in the sky, in the evening, then you can actually see Venus if she's out or before the sun rises, early in the morning when it's still kind of dark out, you can see Venus. The point is that the light of the sun has to be gone for our view of the cosmos to move from one light to many lights. So Venus is associated with everything yin and nocturnal, with that evening view that shows us the moon and all of the stars and all of the planets. And the manifest cosmos itself as not just one thing, but many things that are all part of the same essence, the same oneness, but are still diverse in expression. That diversity, that multiplicity, that embodiment, that was all thought of as feminine or yin. So not surprisingly, the sign that takes us into the dark half of the year, the underworld of the zodiac, so to speak, when there is more dark than light in the 24-hour period from Libra all the way through Pisces, one of the rulers of that sign of Libra ushering us into the dark half of the year is Venus. Venus, the goddess who is a representative of the material universe, embodied, sensual, relational. One of the main things that defines a relational cosmos, it's not just one, but many, is interconnections, harmony, relationships, attraction, beauty, things being shared and circulated, flow between different parts. So one of the reasons, there are quite a few reasons that ancient astrologers had for assigning planets to different portions of the zodiac, but one of the key reasons that Venus is given a rulership in Libra is that we're talking about a balancing and a flow between light and dark, between the one and the many, ushering us into the nocturnal, the yin, the embodied sort of dark yin part of the zodiac is Venus, the goddess. So this is a very strong sign for her. It's interesting that this sign is also given, Saturn is given its exaltation here. The material world is a place that all exists within the bounds of Saturn. So Saturn sat as the gatekeeper between this material world and the realm of the transcendental, the Ade, the Archai, the One, that lies beyond the manifest realm of duality and multiplicity. And so it's interesting that in this sign, we have the planet that delineates the boundaries and space of the material world, time, space, multiplicity, etc. And then we have Venus, the goddess, who is all about the relational nature of this kind of eco matrix that we're in. These two together also reflect that everything that happens within this bound of time and space happens according to very mysterious laws of beauty, laws of symmetry, laws of proportionality, but also laws of justice. Aphrodite, Venus, was actually intimately associated with justice and fairness, because the idea is that within a material cosmos that is teeming with life and relationships between living beings, that the principles of love, respect, harmony, diplomacy, flow are operating. And so within the bounds of the karmic world that Saturn demarcates, the rules of balance and flow and harmony and relationality are operating. They are a huge part of how this material cosmos is orchestrated. There are mysterious laws of karma that govern the relationships of all living beings in a living cosmos. So Venus is thought to do really well in this sign. And some of the ways that you can see Venus, the sort of benefits or blessings of Venus in this sign tend to be a real concern with fairness, equity, social awareness and grace, diplomacy and tact, care for living beings, an awareness of beauty, a sensitivity toward others and the feelings and needs of others, balancing with one's own. There's a real, like, what I want to call it, like a social calculator that Librans are operating at light speed, that can really anticipate the needs, feelings, responses, thoughts of other people, and can modulate one's self-expression to be harmonizing with others. There's also a lot of intelligence, where an understanding of something like law and beauty and attractiveness, what works and doesn't work. Many Librans are actually, you'll see a lot of Libran people actually in the legal profession or the field of law, but also people who have keen social awareness, people who are good at marketing, public relations, and even things like fashion or design. So this is a Venus that typically brings beneficial people and relationships and harmony and intelligence into whatever sphere of life it's touching through its transit. And even more broadly speaking, this is just a Venus in one of her own signs that is therefore going to bring good fortune and benefits and blessings. Broadly speaking, Venus in her own sign, regardless of the nuances of her nature in Libra, for example, will just bring good stuff. Just like, here, this is some support. Here are some, some beneficial allies or friendships or relationships. Here's some ease, harmony, and flow. But also, I would say where a sense of attractiveness and intelligence can come together to be supportive in any area of life, that's often what you'll get when Venus is transiting Libra. So with all of that in mind, and just like a little brief crash course on Venus and Libra, let's think now about how this might look for all of us, given the transit of Venus over the upcoming weeks, and given the whole sign house location in our birth charts. Sometimes I like to just remind myself as the benefics are transiting and moving through new signs, like, oh yeah, here's, when Venus is in Virgo, for example, that's her fall. There might be some unique tensions or challenges that come up around that whole sign house. It's good to be aware of those things, but it's also good to be aware of the benefits and blessings that come when a benefic is well dignified. For example, we spent a lot of time talking about Jupiter and Cancer, and that sphere of your chart for a whole year of life might be helped in some really nice ways by Jupiter's dignity being exalted in that sign. So here's Venus in the sign of Libra. Let's track out the transit here. So we're talking about a transit that is, let's give it yesterday, October 13th. And then we're going to trace this out all the way through the entirety of Libra and going to enter Scorpio on November 6th. So October 13th through November 6th. That gives us, like almost like a good solid 3 weeks. Let's just see here. Yeah, is it actually, 1, 2, 3. It's like, it's like a little over 3 full weeks of Venus in Libra. So what I think will be really useful for us today is if we just reflect on where we might notice that feeling of flow or support, harmony, ease, good fortunes, blessings. One of the things that Venus represents, very broadly speaking, is just good fortune. What does good fortune mean? For ancient people, it literally just meant the more pleasant features of life. Today was a good day. I liked that meal. I had a nice interaction. Someone helped me. I found success at work. I was noticed or congratulated for something. Someone came into the shop and made a big purchase today that really helped my bottom line. All of those just strokes of good fortune typically come along the lines of Venus and Jupiter. Of course, any planet can deliver good or bad fortune depending on context, but it's just a simple thing you can do to track a transit of a benefic in its own power. So if you are in Aries, this is in the relationship house. So watch for interpersonal relationships, allies, people who are beneficial or that just bring some uplifting and supportive energy. That would be the place to look for Aries. For Taurus, it's in your 6th house. Let's just say that wherever there are a lot of challenges or a lot of hard work, a lot of things that you're grinding away on, that you may find that there's some ease or flow in that daily hustle and grind. I like to think of the 6th house Venus transit, especially well dignified, as being like a little bit of extra help or support with the gritty stuff. And also, if you have people that you employ or that work for you, some really maybe nice or uplifting energy there with people you employ. For Geminis, we're talking about the 5th house, the place of creativity and creative fulfillment. Really nice to have a planet that's all about joy and harmony. This house was called the joy of Venus. And so creative fulfillment in general, or even finding that there's a kind of playful, nice vibe or flow with other people that allows you to collaborate creatively. Nice transit for things like pregnancy and childbirth if you're trying for that kind of thing. Nice vibe for parenting and good relationship dynamics with children, often when Venus is transiting this house. Things to be proud of for your kids, maybe. For Cancer, we're talking about Venus in the 4th house, the place of home and family. So just a little supportive, it's like a, peace and good relations among family members, harmony, diplomacy, peace, joy, within the home or family, within the living environment, finding that there's a little bit more enjoyment or relaxation at home, or even focusing on things around the house that can beautify or make the home more enjoyable or pleasant somehow. So we move on to, Leo rising. We take Venus and place it in the 3rd house, thinking about good relationships with sisters or siblings in particular, some harmonizing there with sisters or siblings or friends. Also a good transit for learning things or for sort of acknowledging or honoring what you're finding attractive mentally, emotionally, and or artistically, and maybe giving your mind what it wants in terms of what you're learning, what you're focusing on, what's on your mind, and how you're, I think of the third house often as a barometer for our mental and emotional state. So I like this as a time of like feeling good mentally and emotionally, or maybe uh, honoring the things that you're finding interesting or desirable right now mentally and emotionally. All right, let's go to Virgo. So for Virgo, we're looking at the second house, place of money, resources, development of assets, uh, income and expenditures. Maybe there's some nice supportive um, energy coming in from Venus in the financial house over the upcoming weeks. This is also maybe about um, the development of skills, assets, and resources of any kind, and just finding support for the development of things that you're building on or working toward. For Librans, we're talking about the first house. This is a place of identity, talking about the body and your self concept. I like this as just feeling attractive, looking your best, building self-worth, building health, developing a healthier sense of self-esteem. All really nice things for Venus here. What is the difference between healthy self-esteem and vanity? That could be a little bit of a shadow, but a good transit overall. For Scorpio, we're talking about the 12th house. What are some of the unconscious or blind spots in relationships? What is existing behind the scenes or unconsciously or subconsciously that you're being asked to look at right now within relationships? Where is there a greater need for peace or harmony that you're having a hard time accessing? Or what is your relationship with drama or conflict versus peace and harmony in relationships? And how can you bring authenticity and integrity into your relationships at a deeper level? So for Sagittarius, the 11th house, benefits, allies, blessings, coming through friends, groups, communities, finding the right people, the right social scenes, the right social networks that feel supportive, uplifting, exciting, the right kinds of collaborations. All of that comes to my mind for Sagittarians. For Capricorns, we're looking at Venus in your 10th house, and we're thinking here of the workplace. And Venus in the workplace can bring anything from gains or promotions or, good luck into your job. It can also bring just harmony, flow, even romance among you and people you work with or for. Good relationship dynamics in the workplace. Always nice to see that. Also, just good fortune generally around career, your earning power, your reputation, your visibility, and so forth. Diplomacy in the workplace comes to mind. For Aquarians, we're talking about the 9th house, Venus, over the next couple of weeks. The blessings of the goddess in the house of religion, spirituality, higher mindedness, teachers, educators, places of higher learning, maybe travel abroad, and a wave of kind of good, supportive, peaceful, diplomatic energy coming through that area of life. Might show what you're interested in learning right now, or some relationship dynamics with teachers or in some kind of learning environment. Religious or spiritual themes related to the goddess come to mind as well. And then finally, for Pisces, we see this in the 8th house, where the potential for really meaningful and deep soul contracts to be negotiated right now. What is beneficial mutually for you and someone else? Where are you examining and exploring the nature and makeup of your deepest soul contracts emotionally, financially? What's beneficial? What kinds of blessings are coming in through other people right now, perhaps even unexpectedly? Those are all good things to consider for the 8th house. Even something like inheritance can come up there. So that is just, again, kind of a brief. What I wanted to do today was just kind of remind you of why Venus in Libra is so nice and supportive. I think one way of considering it is that Venus in this sign says, look, the material cosmos is a place teeming with life, and life means relationships. And part of how the cosmos is orchestrated is by the mysterious laws of karma that govern these relationships. And ideally, if we act peacefully, with consideration, with compassion, with love, with forgiveness, with a sense of justice and beauty and sensitivity toward one another, things flow and good fortune abounds. And Venus brings that as she travels through Libra. She brings that reminder if it's needed. She also brings the blessings of that if it's needed. That's sort of one of the main reasons that she's placed along with Saturn in the sign of Libra. So about 3 weeks plus of a really nice Venus placement. And it might be good to just step back and say, okay, Goddess has entered a new sphere of my life right now. I'm going to sort of take a moment to acknowledge that and see if even with some journaling or some quiet reflection, do I notice her? Do I see her? And do I make sure to thank her? I think that's important too. All right, I'm signing off. Check out the upcoming year 1 program. In my opinion, there is nothing better than studying astrology seriously to understand planetary conversations. Everything in astrology boils down to planetary conversations, and learning about the planets in depth and how they converse and why they converse in the ways that they do really takes your ability to understand these conversations that are happening in your chart every day in the sky at a much deeper level. So I hope you'll consider that. Come study with us. We'll see you again soon. Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. I'm excited to tell you about our upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. This is our first year course in Hellenistic astrology, and it begins again this November. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the course, the format of the course, and how to register. So let's go ahead and get into it. What is this course about? Well, if you are not familiar, ancient Hellenistic astrology is the earliest and original form of horoscopic astrology. All of the subsequent forms and schools of astrology that have existed over thousands of years come from these philosophical and theoretical roots. And so what you're doing when you study Hellenistic astrology is you're going back to understand the why behind absolutely everything. Why were there ever such a thing as houses and signs in the first place? How were the planets ever assigned to rule various portions of the zodiac in the first place? How do you use the categories of essential dignity, and why were they ever created in the first place? If you're someone like me, you like to know the why behind things, because once you understand the why, then you know how to use things more intuitively. So really the point of Hellenistic astrology, in my opinion, is not so much about going back and becoming a traditional astrologer or, just being traditional for the sake of being traditional, as much as it is about grasping the roots of the entire system and paradigm. When you understand those roots, you have more intuition and understanding, which allow for you to be much more artful and fluid in the way that you speak the language of astrology. We call this class Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic because while it is about going back to understand the philosophical, theoretical, technical roots of the tradition, it's also about fluidly bridging those things with modern astrology and all of its most unique contributions. For example, modern astrology has given us so much psychological depth and personal depth. And so in a modern astrological setting, you're going to get the ability to explore your own character, your own psychology, and you're going to be able to utilize astrology for a process of healing and personal transformation. But when you pair that with ancient astrology, and it's almost like predictive karmic analytics, you really have a full toolkit to work with. And so that's also a great mission of ours at Nightlight, is to bridge ancient and modern forms, which is why we call the program Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. So that's just a little kind of overview of the program. If you want to know more about the specifics of the curriculum and of the syllabus, what I encourage you to do is go over to nightlightastrology.com, click on the courses page, go to the first year course, scroll down, and you'll see this over 12 months you'll learn about. And here you're going to see more of a detailed breakdown of the curriculum itself. I can promise you that if you've studied astrology in modern context, but you've never gone back to the ancient roots, while some of these topics may look familiar to you and you go, oh, I've already learned about that, unless you've studied them from the Hellenistic perspective, I guarantee that you are not going to be familiar with this content. Hellenistic astrology is mind-blowingly new and interesting for most people. And if you've never studied it, again, don't assume that anything on this list is something you're going to be familiar with. In that way, the program is really ideal for a variety of different people, and I'll say more about that in a second. So what is the format of the course? Let's go to that next. Scroll down and you're going to see that the course includes 30 online webinars that I lead throughout the year. Over the course of a year together, I have 30 classes that are broken into different units of material. In between those classes, we have breakout study sessions with your course director and 2 TAs. They're going to lead you through Q&A sessions and tutoring sessions to make sure that you have a lot of support in between major units of study. In addition, we also have an interactive group forum discussion where you can ask questions year-round and get an answer within a business day in the student forum, where a lot of people also connect and build community. Lots of people in that forum also develop like little meetup groups outside of class. That's very common in all of our programs. It's a very community loving, warm space where anyone's also welcome. Throughout the course, you're also going to find that for every lesson, if you're just there as a hobby student, you can just listen to the webinars. They're all recorded for you. So if you can't make the live webinars, everything is housed on the website as recordings. I'd say about 40 or 50% of our students are going to be following along at their own pace, whereas the other half might be attending the live webinars. But it's really kind of, if you can attend a few and then 1 week you got to be gone, the recordings are always there. You have lifetime access to everything in the course, so it's not a big deal. For every lesson as well, if you're someone who wants to go really, really deep, maybe you have the intention to practice professionally, this course is set up with an optional certification exam at the end from our school, from our program. So you can, if you want to build that resume and develop the credentials from our programs, you can do that, but it's optional, so you don't have to. And outside of every lesson, we have recommended reading. We have supplemental bonus content, all of which is optional, but it's there for people who might want a lot more, whereas some people will take the webinars themselves, and that'll be plenty. So it's really flexible in that way. Also, this is one program within 4 years of curriculum that are meant to go together. And so most people who come through our first year program will end up taking our second year program, where we develop forecasting and prediction and transit tracking techniques. Our third year program, which is aimed at counseling and psychology. So psychological counseling skills is our third year program. And then the Oracle Within, which is our exploration of the philosophical, spiritual roots of the divinatory oracular tradition of astrology. So there's a lot of material there. We also have another 1 year program in horary astrology for some people who want to add that predictive tool to their toolkit. So there's just a lot of material at Nightlight that this class is actually just one part of, which can be taken standalone, or for some people, they get into it, they're going to love it. You're going to hang out with us for 3 or 4 years worth of content. This program is ideal for a number of different types of students of astrology. I'll say that for starters. So let's see here. I'll stop sharing this. So we have there's a profile of the typical students who come through our courses. One is going to be people who just want a very guided introduction to ancient astrology because you've never had it before. Maybe you're only familiar with modern, and you want that guided, structured approach to learning traditional for the first time. Also, people who are brand new to astrology in general, there's no better place to start than at the roots of the ancient foundations. So whether you're a total beginner or just a beginner to Hellenistic, this is a great place to start. If you are someone who's been around astrology for a long time, but you've never had a guided, structured approach to Hellenistic astrology, again, this is a great place to start. I promise you, Hellenistic is very different than what you're familiar with, and you're going to need a guided and structured approach at some point in time. I also think for people who are looking for a lineage, which means not just a bunch of information, but a practitioner-specific based approach where you get to see a practitioner work with clients. You get to hear how a practitioner has prioritized different techniques and why. You're going to get a structured, spiritually grounded focus at Nightlight as well, where if you're looking for someone who practices astrology but also values grounded everyday spiritual practice, that's Nightlight. If you want a community that's been in the industry for a long time now, this is our 16th year of teaching programs and guiding students through trainings. So all of those things, if they matter to you, this is a great place to study. It's a warm community atmosphere. It's spiritually grounded. It's focused. It's academically rigorous. It's going to provide you the appropriate preparation for practicing professionally, especially if you go through all of our programs. But also for those who are just curious and love astrology for your own personal interests, this is going to be a great place for you to learn and grow and thrive and feel like you have a lot of support around you in the curriculum, the teachers, the community, as you're developing, what might just be a personal interest or spiritual hobby. So that is who it's ideal for. Finally, how you register. You go over to the website. I'm going to take you back there. And it's at the bottom of the first year page. You're going to find that the early bird rate is in effect until October 24th. You can save significantly off the cost of the course when you use the early bird rate, where you can pay in full, or use an early bird installment rate plan. Both are going to save you off significantly off the cost of the course. But also at Nightlight, it has always been our mission to make sure that astrological education is accessible for everyone. So please, if you are someone who would love to take this course, but maybe you can only afford a small amount of tuition per month, use the tuition assistance. It is there. All you got to do is plot, you fill out the little form, you tell us your situation. If you're on a fixed income, if you're on a limited income, if you're part-time, if you're in between jobs, if you don't make a lot and you're on that fixed budget, we understand. We don't want people to hurt themselves trying to study something that is spiritual that we feel should be very accessible for everybody. So if you're someone who could use a little help to make this program happen, for whatever reason, maybe you're a single parent or you're on disability or you're retired or you're on a fixed income, whatever the case is, use that tuition assistance. Also, people in other countries who have extreme, exchange rates. We get it. So just use the tuition assistance and we'll be glad to make sure that the price point is accessible. For us, as a spiritual topic, we're a business at the end of the day, but we believe that this is a spiritual topic. And so accessibility has been a part of our model for 16 years now. We've never not had one of our training programs with affordable sliding scale-based prices for people who need it. So please take advantage of that. It's all there for you. I hope to see you in classes soon. And if you have any questions about the program whatsoever, direct them to us at info@nightlightastrology.com. And I hope to see you all coming up here in November. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.